Good morning and welcome to the webinar on comparative world literatures. It is an honor to host this event in the presence of our revered Vice Chancellor of Hindi University, Professor Nandini Sahu ma'am, and our distinguished speakers, Professor Rabindranath Sharma and Professor Dwijen Sharma sir. Today, we will embark on the fascinating journey through the realms of world literatures, exploring the diverse perspectives and themes that shape our understanding of the world. Before we begin, I would like to say that it is my great honor to introduce Honorable Vice Chancellor of Hindi University, Professor Nandini Sahu ma'am, who is a distinguished academician, poet, creative writer, and a wonderful translator too. With a stellar academic background, she previously led the School of Foreign Languages at IGNOU, New Delhi. She has authored almost 23 books, making her a best-selling author on Amazon. Her academic achievements include gold medals in graduation and post-graduation as well as the prestigious Literary Award Gold Medal from the Vice President of India. She has received the Michael Madhusudan Academy Award in the year of 2024, Lifetime Achievement Award in the year of 2024, the prestigious Tagore Samman in the year of 2025, and honorary fellowship from the International Academy of Ethics, and that is too the year in 2025. Her latest publication, Medusa, showcases her literary expertise. Her research spans new literatures, critical theory, folklore, and more, solidifying her reputation as a leading authority in India in Indian English literature and education. Now, I would like to invite Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Nandini Sahu ma'am for the inaugural speech. And please.
Thank you, Dr. Paramita, and thank you, Raj, for uh, taking this responsibility of this issue of comparative world literatures lecture series. Uh, uh, Delivering an inaugural address in the presence of Professor Dwijen Sharma and Professor Rabindranath is definitely a challenge for me and for anyone for that matter. Given the body of work they have contributed to Indian literature, both through their research publications, their teaching, and their creative writing. Before going to talk about today's expectations from both the scholars, I cannot but help myself talking a little bit of personal. My association, my long relationship with both of them has a soul connection. We have been very, very close friends, and we have worked together for probably forever. Professor Rabindranath Sharma has been working with me in the UGC for many projects, and he has also contributed massively, extensively to the IGNOU MA program in folklore and culture studies, which I designed in the year 2020-21. The second year courses and the first year courses were designed in 2008 and 9. And I know him since 2 decades. We have always worked together, and he's not just an excellent scholar who doesn't make compromises on the quality of work. Rather, he's my go-to person. If I'm stuck somewhere in any kind of issue, problem, research, or anything, uh, the first person I would just pick my phone and call is Professor Rabindranath Sharma. And very recently, I had an opportunity to go through his detailed biodata because I was trying to get him into a project which anyway could not happen. But I was just looking at the variety of work he has done, and he's very popular among his students. He's a student's person, he's a people's person. And I'm very fortunate to know Professor Rabindranath Sharma. This is not an exaggeration for me to say that in the making of whatever I am today as a folklorist, Professor Rabindranath Sharma has a major contribution in that. So I welcome you, Professor Rabindranath Sharma, to be a part of Hindi University. This lecture series is doing absolutely wonderful. I think both of you are the 44th and 45th speakers. Paramita will be able to tell better. Within 6 months' time, already for including the two of you, 45 people have already spoken, and everything is recorded. Everything is put in the YouTube channel. You can go through the YouTube channel whenever you have some time. And many universities are approaching us to take these YouTube lectures, these video lectures that all of you are contributing and delivering. And very soon we will try to put it under some important ministry project which I'm already planning and talking to the ministry. So thank you once again for accepting our invitation and being a part of Hindi University. And as far as Professor Dwijen Sharma is concerned, I got to know him rather recently, maybe 6 to 7 years, not more than that. But I have been ever so inspired by the person that he is and the work that he has been doing. Very recently we met designing a syllabus, complete syllabus of Indian knowledge systems in Banaras, and then I got to know him closely as a person and as a researcher, and he has been doing excellent work. He is very very humble and very polite. When you talk to him you will not even know that he is a person who is contributing so much. And also there is one more thing, the both the speakers today are great friends as far as I understand, and I'm glad that I put both the friends together. In fact, it was my plan. I told Paramita that put these two people together. They should be together because they are great friends, and I mean, I'm the greatest friend of both of them. So here we are together. Professor Dwijen Sharma, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We are seriously looking forward to your contribution to Hindi University lecture series vis-a-vis the literature from Northeast India. And coming to today's expectations from these two lectures by the two eminent speakers, my faculty, students, and staff, and also myself, we have some expectations from you. We would like to know more about a few issues that I actually jotted down, which I'm going to quickly tell you before Paramita goes to introduce both of you formally. The first one from the related to the comparative world literature vis-a-vis Northeast literature is the marginalization of orality and indigenous epistemes in comparative frameworks. Comparative world literature, it usually takes some kind of Euro-American worldview, Euro-American point of view, and it sidelines the rich oral traditions and the indigenous epistemologies, especially from Northeast India, of course from other parts of the country as well, but especially from Northeast India. And this erasure leads to kind of pre-literary and erasure of the ethnographic data from the 7 states of Northeast India. We already had two lectures by Shivani Pukkan and Durjati on this topic, and their lectures are there, and we have put in the YouTube. You can also go to those. So rather than philosophically rich and literary texts in their own right, Northeastern literature is always presented in a stereotypical manner. And today we are looking forward to listening to you breaking the boundaries that the rest of the world thinks about Northeastern literature, and also the politics of translation and linguistic hegemony vis-a-vis Northeastern literature. I am reminded about one research scholar who came to me with some texts of Y.D. Tongsi, and nothing was translated, but the student came to me with a synopsis on Y.D. Tongsi. Then I asked the student, how can I read Assamese? You have to go translate it to English and then come back to me. And then a couple of students told me, ma'am, a lot of things are non-translatable. Then I had to take a discourse with them that nothing is untranslatable. You can use notes, you can use works cited, you can use references, you can use footnote, but you please translate and come back to me. And then the research that came out from that translated texts and also the folklore and folk life of Northeast India that the student worked on, they became a part of our indigenous semiotics and our sacred cosmologies. So this is what we are waiting to listen from the two of you, both of you being such eminent scholars from Northeast India, that we would like to know about indigenous semiotics and sacred cosmologies vis-a-vis Northeastern literature. And then the third point that I would like to point out today is mythology as political resistance and not exactly as a narrative archetype. Probably Professor Dwijen Sharma can talk better about it because he was a part of the syllabus design committee of Indian knowledge systems and Hindu studies kind of texts. So global comparative framework, it tends to read mythology through northeastern Indian mythologies such as Naga, Meitei, Mizo, Khasi, and Karvi myths, how they function as modes of resistance against the colonialism, environmental destruction, and state violence. So these things may be covered in today's discussions with you. And then the next point that I would like to point out for today's lecture is insufficient engagement with indigenous knowledge systems. Most of the texts that are taught in many of our universities, they deal with kinship with non-human beings and then with human beings and knowledge through embodiment, and they are central to some kind of stereotypical mainstream comparative literature. Probably we can break the boundary today and we can create a new narrative. The need of the time is to create a counter comparative methodology. When we teach comparative literature vis-a-vis Northeastern studies, the methodology and the pedagogy is very, very challenging. Professor Dwijen Sharma will agree with me that in that syllabus design committee, we all had delivered our lectures, we had presented the tentative syllabus that we had drafted, but the meeting ended up with a lot of confusion and a lot of debate and chaos about the methodology, about the pedagogy. What should be the methodology of teaching Indian knowledge systems? So today, my expectation and my request to Professor Dwijen Sharma would be to let us know the new ideas and new research methodologies and teaching methodologies vis-a-vis Indian knowledge systems and indigenous knowledge systems from the Northeast India. So instead of comparing Northeast Indian literature to Western canonical texts, scholars may foreground intra-indigenous and comparative other comparative models. For example, linking Mizo oral songs with African traditions, Khashi folk tales with Andaman cosmologies. So these kind of shifts can create plural then decolonial methodologies in our classrooms, and then we can create an epistemic authority within the indigenous frameworks which are so limited till date. And with these two lectures probably we can make them limitless, so we can create a new method of teaching. Both the scholars sitting in front of me have done excellent work vis-a-vis the things that I just mentioned. Giving these kind of ideas to them is just like showing a candle to the sun, but still I had the audacity of doing it. Now I leave it to Paromita to introduce both the speakers formally and then welcome them to deliver their lectures. Thank you and welcome to Hindi University once again, Professor Dwijen Sharma and Professor Rabindranath Sharma.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I'm pleased and really excited to introduce Professor Rabindranath Sharma, who is a distinguished professor of anthropology and tribal studies at Central University of Jharkhand. With extensive experience in academic, he has guided numerous PhD scholars and participated in over 60 conferences. Professor Sharma has published over 170 articles and several books, including Tradition, Identity and Diversity, Bhasa, Sahitya, Sanskriti Bhitor Kole in Assamese. He is a member of several prestigious academic societies and he has received notable awards such as the Nelson Mandela Human Rights Award in the year 2019 and Naman Birsa Munda Jharkhand Ratna in the year 2021 for his contributions to the tribal and human rights. He has received first prize in Social Justice Award in the Happy Media Tech 2022. And in the year of 2023, he has received Annual Foundation Day Best Research Award of Central University of Jharkhand. So, without any delay, I would like to invite Professor Rabindranath Sharma sir for his enlightening speech. So, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Nandini Sahu, ma'am. My co-speaker, Professor Dwijen Sarma, sir. Dr. Paromita, ma'am. And technical staff, Mr. Raj, and other attending in this webinar program. Of course, I am very fortunate to meet scholars like Doyen scholars like Professor Nandini Sahu, ma'am, Professor Dwijen Sarma, sir, and I'm very happy to just share my some gathered field collected knowledge in front of the uh, distinguished persons of this Hindi university, which is a new university, and I'm very happy that Professor Nandini Sahu ma'am is holding the key position of the university, and this kind of webinar will help not only current scholars, how she is planning, it will help the future generations to generations, I hope so. So that is why, as when ma'am has requested me to invited me for this program, I was little hesitate because this is a very big platform, and in future it will be a very big part of the archive. So that is why whatever I share today, as I am a student of culture studies and folklore, sometimes it may make some kind of differences also, and sometimes it may make some agree kind of. So that is why just I like to share, as I have already mentioned, that I am student of folklore and culture studies, and I am native of Northeast India. So when I received this invitation that I need to speak about this comparative literature in the context of Northeast India, which is very relevant, because this Northeast India is having a good relation with the mainstream Indian subcontinent from the Vedic period. Even we found the participation of Kamrupa, the old name of this present Assam. So king like Khatatkosa and other armies participated in Ramayana Mahabharata that era, that war. So that is why, and even now, in many places there are many historical places in Northeast India which is directly related and connected with the mythical stories of the Vedic period, particularly this Ramayana and Mahabharata. So that is why, from the prehistoric past, we this part Northeast India is having a good cultural relation with the rest part of India. Even that history like Rastarangini of Kashmir, where there was a that family relation with the king of Assam, that in Kamrupa. So those things gives a good example of the old relations of India and Northeast India, Indian subcontinent and Northeast India. Even the writings of Yuan Sang, the who came from China, even he had wrote about, he had mentioned about the silk cloth of Assam, famous silk cloth of Assam, and he has mentioned many things in his notes, Yuan Sang's notes. So from that background, from prehistoric past to present, we have a very good connection with this rest part of India. And this present Northeast India we have 8 states, that Assam, Meghalaya, Manipur, Tripura, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, and last Tripura and last Sikkim also included pro Northeastern Council. Actually, that was a inclusion for the administrative purpose, but later on it became a part and parcel of Northeast India. That is why earlier it was 7 sisters and now it is 8 sisters. So if I go that state-wise, presently Assam is having 78,523 square kilometers of land. And in this Assam, we have people from different racial and other characteristic features, like both Mongoloid, Aryan and Aryan people are inhabited. And as per the constitution, where the tribe word included, so both tribal and non-tribal people are inhabited in Assam. So if I go that just I like to mention few communities like Boro, Garo, Rava, Khasi, Jayantia, then few Kukinaga tribes, and then Missing, Deuri, and many tribes are inhabiting in Assam of Northeast India. So what happened in Assam's case, that Assamese language is the lingua franca among all people. And other than Assamese people, these different tribal groups like Boro, Rava, then few Naga groups, they are retaining their own language among themselves. And particularly this tribe, the Rava, they have 7 sects, and almost 5 sects have forgotten their own language, but they are using a kind of lingua franca that is popularly known as Ravamis, and particularly this Rongdani and Maitari, who is available near Dudhno area of Gwalpara district of Assam. So they are retaining their own language. But most of the tribal groups of Assam, they are continuing their own dress pattern, then their own culture, then they have their own food habits. So they are retaining all their traditional items among themselves, and they have, though they are in Assam and mingling with different communities, and they are retaining or their own traditional culture, arts, language, and other specific characteristics. So if we see the religion-wise, in Assam, this Hindu religion is predominant. Other than Hindu, in Hindu itself also they have different kind of sects like that Sakta and Vaishnavi. And other than this Hindu, there are few people converted to Christianity after British entered in India. And even after Mughal came, a few people converted to Muslim also. And other this Hindu, Christian, and Muslim, few Buddhist communities are also there. So all these religious people, they are retaining their own religion, but all of them are identified as Assamese people. So that is the charm of Assam. And they are retaining their own, and in between, as we are discussing in this lecture series on comparative literature. So as the literature comes from the society, so in between, for this identity issue, few groups had started their movement with different issues, but particularly those issues are related to establish their identity. So that is why if we see the literatures of different tribal groups, both oral literature as well as written literature, we find that they are mentioned about few movements like Boro movement, then Karbi movement, then even missing movement also. Of course, there are some political grounds are there, but culturally all of them are same. Culturally the same. They establish their demand, but at the same time they feel proud that they are part of Assam land. So that is the sum of Assam. So next to Assam, if we see about the next state, the Manipur, this is another interesting state which is connected with the neighboring country like Myanmar, China, and neighboring state like Nagaland, Assam. So this in Manipur particularly, there are both valley and hilly regions are there, and this valley region is dominated by Meitei people, and these Meitei people are followers of Chaitanya sect of Vaishnavism, and they are they are following this Chaitanya sect of Vaishnavism, and they speaks the Meitei language. And other than this Meitei people in Manipur, different Naga and Kuki groups are inhabiting in hilly regions of Manipur. And in Manipur, this Meitei is the lingua franca among all people. And in the context of Manipur also, they have different kinds of identity consciousness tendencies are there among different groups, and all of all those things are actually political, not cultural. Culturally, they feel proud as they are from the land of Manipur, and they are retaining their own tradition, culture, etc., etc. So that is why, in the context of Manipur, this is also a very good field for the students of comparative literature, because this particularly this protest literature is very popular in the context of Manipur's comparative literature. So next to Manipur, if we see the Tripura, which is connected with neighboring country Bangladesh, and the neighboring state Mizoram and Assam, they have 10,486 square kilometers. And in Tripura also, both the tribal and non-tribal peoples are inhabiting together. And some major tribal groups like Tripuri, Riang, and some Mizo groups are also there. And Bengalis speaking people are also there in the plain areas, in the valley areas, and in hilly areas, Mongoloid people are inhabiting, and even these Sakma people are very strong in Tripura, who is also available in neighboring country Bangladesh. So this is another picture of Tripura, and in Tripura, Bengali and Kokborok language, both are kind of lingua franca. That Kokborok language is also entered in the academic institutions as a language course. So this Tripura is also having tribals and non-tribal people of Tripura is also carrying their own tradition, culture, and their own history among themselves. So this is a brief picture about Tripura. Other than Tripura, in Arunachal Pradesh, which is directly connected with China and Tibet, and other side Nagaland and Assam, so and one side Bhutan, this Arunachal Pradesh is also having different kinds of tribal groups, and like Adi, Apatani, Nisi, and many more tribal groups. And most of the tribal groups are retaining their own traditional religion, and few people are followers of Buddhism, particularly Hinayana and Mahayana sect of Buddhism that part in Western Arunachal Pradesh, people, Monpa, Sedukpen, those tribal groups, they are connected with the Buddhism of Bhutan, and these other tribal groups, Khamti, Khamyang, etc., from Eastern Arunachal Pradesh, their Buddhism is directly related, connected with the Buddhism of Myanmar. So that is why, and this middle part of Arunachal Pradesh, tribal groups of Arunachal Pradesh, they are retaining their own traditional religion, and other than traditional religion, that Christianity also entered in Arunachal Pradesh recently. So, and there are some other people who are residing in Arunachal Pradesh other than tribal groups, but they are not getting the permanent residential permit due to the inner line permit issue. So that is why this Arunachal Pradesh is completely dominated by indigenous tribal groups, and they are retaining their own tradition, culture, folklore, etc., etc. So this is about the brief about Arunachal Pradesh, and particularly this language. Earlier, that pre-British and post-British period, that Nepalese language was popular and lingua franca among different groups of Arunachal Pradesh. That, earlier, the Arunachal Pradesh was known as Northeastern Frontier Agency, but later on it became Arunachal Pradesh. And scholar like Ferrier Elwin, who was the advisor to the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, he got a chance to give service in Arunachal Pradesh for the tribal development, and Ferrier Elwin has published many books like A Philosophy for Nepal, The Art of Northeast Frontier Agency, and When the World Was Young, and Tribal Fiction, and many more books. In his collection of Ferrier Elwin's collection, we found that the different interesting narratives are current among the tribal groups of Arunachal Pradesh, what is a part of the research also for us. So this Arunachal Pradesh is different tribal groups of Arunachal Pradesh is retaining their own tradition, culture, and their own folklore, including language. So, but the people of Arunachal Pradesh, they feel proud that they are part of India and they are happy with their own life. So next to Arunachal Pradesh, we are coming to next another state, that Meghalaya, which was part of Assam, and it becomes separate in 1973. And the area of Meghalaya is 22,429 square kilometers, and Khasi, Garo, and Jaintia. Khasi, Jaintia, and Garo, these are major tribes. And other than these major tribes, there are few like Koch, Rabha, Boro, and few Naga Kuki groups are residing in Meghalaya. And one interesting thing is that in Meghalaya, these Khasi and Garo people, they are retaining the matrilineal system of their lineage. Matrilineal, matrilocal, and matriarchal pattern is prevailing in this Khasi, Jaintia, and Garo people. So which is having another sound form for the scholars, particularly the scholars of social sciences. So their literature is also like that. So this Khasi language, Garo language, is very established language, and that is a part of curriculum in academic institutions also. So, and these different kinds of festival, they are performing in their own calendar annually, and this they are also retaining their own tradition, culture, etc., etc. So next to Meghalaya, if we come to the Nagaland, which is connected with China and Myanmar, and other side Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, and Manipur, this Nagaland is also having different tribal groups like Aonaga, Ao, Angami, Sakesang, and many other tribal groups are there, very established tribal groups, because they are retaining their own dress pattern, own culture, own food habit, own tradition, and their identity. At one time, there was a movement to make separate, but now, after getting the separate state in 1963, they are independently making their own political establishment, and the state capital Kohima, from there it is the state is controlled, and they are very happy, and because they are retaining their own tradition, culture, etc., etc. In Nagaland also, every different communities is having different dialects, different languages, but they are also very connected uh, uh, among themselves, and they are retaining their own tradition, culture, etc., etc. So next to Mizoram, next to Nagaland, I'm coming to Mizoram, which is in the southernmost part of Northeast India, connected with Bangladesh, uh, Tripura, Assam, and yes, Assam, and they are having 21,081 square kilometers land, and they are Mizo or Lusai is a dominant groups in Mizoram. And one interesting thing is that capital city Aizawl, that is the highest populated city in almost 80, more than 80% of the population of Mizoram are staying, residing in the capital city, and most of the people are agriculturists. And other than this Mizo or Lusai, there are some other tribal groups like Lakher, Pawi, Sinteng, Kuki, Naga groups, and in like Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland. Similarly, the other non-tribal population is very less, because they also following this inner line permit, or that restrictions are there. But even then, few Nepali or Gorkha people are settling in Mizoram. Even this Gorkha people are settling in Manipur also, Arunachal Pradesh also, as well as in Nagaland and Nagaland, Meghalaya, and Mizoram. So these Mizo people, they are very much uh, well connected with the rest part of India, though it is completely hilly region. Completely hilly, no valley at all in the state, and the people are very kind-hearted, and almost all people, other than Sakma people and Gorkha people, almost all people are Christian by religion, and this Gorkha people and Sakma people, some of them are Hindu and some of them are followers of Buddhism. So this way, the people of Mizoram, they are retaining their own tradition, culture, etc., etc. So other than this, just I like to mention about Sikkim, which is connected with the Northeast India. This mm, both tribal and non-tribal peoples are there, and they are also very conscious about their own tradition, culture, and folklore. So this is a brief about this Northeast India, about the people, area, language, religion, culture, as well as geography. So if we see the other part of thing, because as we are in academics, so just I like to share who are working on the languages, culture, and folklore of that region. In this context, that Guwahati University, Department of Folklore Research of Guwahati University and Department of Anthropology, this university is pioneer to studying academically about the people, their folklore, their culture, their language, etc., etc. Next to Guwahati University, Tezpur University, the Department of Cultural Studies, established in 1996. The department is also studying about the culture of Northeast India. Their trust area of research is culture of Northeast India, and they are working on it. Next to Tezpur University, Department of Indian Comparative Literature of Assam University, Silchar. This is other department who is working on this field. Department of Cultural Studies under the Humanities and Social Sciences of Assam Women University in Jorhat of Assam, they are also working on different folklore, culture, etc. of Northeast India. Other than Assam, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, particularly this Department of Cultural and Creative Studies, Department of Anthropology, then Department of Garo in Tura campus of Northeastern Hill University, and other departments, they are working on different fields of culture, language, even the Khasi language of Nehu Shillong campus, they are working on this language and culture or part of Northeast India. Other than Nehu of Shillong, next, if we see the Department of English and Cultural Studies of Mizoram University, which is in Aizawl of Mizoram, so they are also working on this study, doing research and study on this language and culture of Mizoram. And this Central Institute of Technology, that is in Kokrajhar, that Department of Center for Linguistic and Cultural Studies of CIT Kokrajhar, established recently. They are also working in this field. And the Center for Indian Knowledge System of IIT Guwahati, established recently. That is, they are also working on Indian knowledge system, and particularly from the Northeast region. So next to this, I'm coming to Arunachal Institute of Tribal Studies, which is in Rajiv Gandhi University, Arunachal Pradesh, and Department of Tribal Studies, Arunachal University of Studies, which is situated in Namsai. They are also working in this field and doing research in these areas. Another institute, Anandaram Borua Institute of Language, Art and Culture, who have research and language programs in Assamese culture and tribal culture of not only Assam, they are working on neighboring states also. So that is a research organization, research institutions, and recently they have introduced providing internship to other institutions. So that is why this ABLAC, in short, that from Anandaram Borua Institute of Language, Art and Culture, they are also working in this field. Then other than these institutions, like few colleges of Assam, like Dimoria College, Khetri, and Surendas College, Hajo, they have introduced folklore courses in undergraduate level also. They are working on it. And then Nagaland University, they have their own indigenous language department, as well as in English department also. They are focused on oral literature and tribal studies. So Nagaland University is also doing the research and study on that particular area. This Department of Tribal Studies, the Tripura University, that is also another department who is working in this field. Department of Humanities and Tribal Studies of Manipur University, they are also working on different tribal groups of Manipur. And in Manipur, they have one center of one campus of Indira Gandhi National Tribal University, Amarkantak. They are also working in this field. So other than Manipur, that Sikkim University Departments of Nepali, Bhutia and Cultural Studies, They are also working on this language, art, culture, literature, etc., etc. In Nagaland University, they have Naga tribal language studies. In there is another university which is dedicatedly for culture, like Manipur University of Culture, and another university in Assam, which is situated in Majuli. That these two universities dedicatedly studying and doing research on culture. So these are some emerging academic institutions who are working in this field. And recently, many colleges of this region, they have introduced different courses in different names, and they are doing the research and study on language, art, and culture. And all those, why people of Northeast India are getting the inspiration to doing the research, because they from the very ancient times, people from different areas migrated to this region, and they become the permanent settlers of that region. People migrated from east, west, then north and south, and settled there permanently, and they become part of the level of that indigenous people of that region. But very recently, the people who are migrated from southern part, particularly from Bangladesh, that become a very threatening part, threatening. It makes a very difficult, gives a very different side to the people of Assam, not only Assam, all states of Northeast India. So that is why some issues are coming up, particularly that this movement started by different student organizations and some regional parties, just to throw away these Bangladeshi infiltrators. So these are some issues. But in the contrary, if as a student of culture and folklore, that people, political reasons are there, some threatening are there, but culturally people are very retaining their own identity, own feelings, and retaining their own tradition. So this is very interesting. And if we see this, some organizations like Assam Sahitya Sabha and some like Boro Sahitya Sabha and other literary organizations, they are working day and night to retaining the identity of the people of Northeast India. So this is a very remarkable part. And this, I have mentioned about these two organizations, this Assam Sahitya Sabha and Boro Sahitya Sabha of Assam. They have published plenty of books. And one unique thing is that they have given the freedom to write the all communities. Even I have observed that the Assamese Encyclopedia project, which was started by Homen Borgohain, the then president of Assam Sahitya Sabha, he make a movement of Assamia Bishop movement. So that is Assamese Encyclopedia project. And he gave the responsibility to different scholars to compile the encyclopedias, particularly this world literature and folk literature encyclopedia editor was Professor Rabindranath Datta, who invited to write about different communities from the native speakers. As for example, what our Honorable Vice Chancellor Ma'am mentioned about that Yese Dorje Thongsi, YD Thongsi, he is from Arunachal Pradesh, but he is a good writer in who is writing in Assamese. And Professor Rabindranath Datta invited Yese Dorje Thongsi to write the folk literature of Arunachal Pradesh. Arunachal Loka Sahitya. The title of that article was Arunachal Loka Sahitya. And Yese Dorset Thongsi wrote nicely his article, and it was published in Assam Sahitya Sabha's Assamese Encyclopedia. Similarly, Professor Rabindranath Datta gave the responsibility to write the Mizo folk literature to Margaret C. Jama, who is professor of English of Mizoram University. So Margaret C. Jama wrote about Mizo folk literature. Professor Datta sir gave the responsibility to write about Khasi folk literature to Professor Desmond L. Kharmaflang from Northeastern Hill University. Then Garo folk literature to Carolina R. Marat from Tura, Meghalaya. And Manipuri folk literature to Bihari Singh from Manipur University. And similarly, this in Assam, this Boro folk literature wrote by Professor Anil Boro. Then missing folk literature was written by Nahendra Padun. So this way that Assam Sahitya Sabha through the Assamese Encyclopedia project again tried to make the make a less distance among the different communities through the literature. So this is a very interesting part of this studies of student of comparative literature. So this Assam Sahitya Sabha and organizations like Anandaram Borua Institute of Language, Art and Culture, they are contributing a lot in the field of literature, art and culture. So these are a very brief about the comparative literature situation in Northeast India. And if I see the sponsor or supporting from the government side, that there are some research institutions like Indian Council of Social Science Research, Indian Council of Historical Research. They have branches in Northeast India. Even they have branches. The Sahitya Academy is having the branch in Northeast India. So collecting, documenting, preserving the oral literature, tradition, culture of Northeast India. So with these few words, I like to conclude. And again, I like to thank Honorable Vice Chancellor Ma'am, Professor Nandini Sahu Ma'am, and her team, and including Dr. Paramita Ma'am and Mr. Raj. So with these few words, I like to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such a compelling and unique lecture on Northeastern folks. Now, I would like to request Professor Nandini Sahu ma'am for her very significant remarks. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Paramita. Professor Rabindranath, you provided us with an archive of all the good work happening in Northeast India. In fact, this lecture will be useful for anyone working from or working on Northeastern Indian literature, and this is going to stay with us. So you pointed out interesting things like Northeast India as a part of our mainstream Indian literature, and then the seven states, one by one, you covered almost everything. You left nothing actually. You mentioned about the Ramayana, Mahabharata, mythical tales, Vedic literatures of the seven states, and the tribal literature, Buddhist connections, Islamic and Christian connections. And then, yes, you pointed out about Barrier Elwin and I remember that you had emphasized to take When the World Was Young kind of texts by Barrier Elwin in our MA syllabus, which we have already taken in our MAG 16 as well as MA Folk Literature. And then you mentioned about the political connections of comparative world literatures and Northeastern literature. So your panorama was very, very wide, and I'm glad that we could listen to you and we could record it. So, couple of things that are my takeaway from your lecture, which can be very lengthy, but I will finish it quickly because the other speaker is waiting. Universal and pluriversal epistemologies from tribal cosmologies to Vedic and Buddhist continuities was something that you pointed out, and this can be one of the research questions for our syllabus design or our coursework or something. When we design our comparative world literatures MA program in Hindi University, we will certainly take your help to prepare the northeastern blocks and chapters and units. And then you also mentioned about the entangled histories and the literary afterlives of conversion, colonization, and resistance vis-a-vis northeastern literature. This was very important. And the politics of canonicity, who owns the narrative, was the question. After listening to you, I am questioning myself: what is the canon of northeastern Indian literature? How can it fit into the canon of comparative world literatures? And what kind of comparative studies can be carried forward after doing the research that you have been doing? So it was a lecture which was packed with thoughts, and it is an archive, as I told in the beginning. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Now, Paramita, probably you can introduce Professor Dwijen formally and invite him. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I'm really delighted and thrilled to introduce Professor Dwijen Sharma, sir, who teaches English in Northeastern Hill University, Jura campus, Meghalaya. He has edited two books titled Indian Fiction in Translation, Issues and Explorations in the year 2014, and another one, Writing from India's Northeast, Recovering the Small Voices in the year 2019. Other than this, his book reviews are The Problematic Relationship Between Culture and Ethnicity, a book review of culture, ethnicity, and identity, social change and development. And other one, book review of Arup Kumar Datta's The Bag. He has also published widely in both national and international journals. He is currently engaged in the study of the work of the renowned singer, writer, filmmaker, and a politician, Bhupen Hazarika. Now, I would like to request Professor Dwijen Sharma, sir, for his very knowledgeable lecture. So please.
Yeah, thank you so much. At the outset, I would like to thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor and friend, Professor Nandini Sahu. Ma'am, you have been a friend for quite a long time. It's not 7 years; almost like 16 years. I was just, calculating, because in 2009, when you introduced a course like a postgraduate diploma in folklore and cultural studies, that was the first time I actually got introduced to you. And after that, in 2010, we met in Goa for ISA conference. And since then, of course. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk here today, because I have seen that this platform has been used by so many, and you have invited so many great scholars. It started probably with Professor Anishu Rahman, Guru of a kind, who has done a wonderful work. And so, and then, I mean, it didn't stop. I mean, we continued. And as you said, we are the 45th or 46th, speakers now. So that's great, wonderful. Thank you, ma'am, and congratulations to you for donning the role of the vice chancellor in a new university, and that you are, trying to, pull it up to a height which probably in the next for 5 years we'll see. I mean, definitely, it's a great thing that you have been doing. Thank you. And of course, we know you as a scholar, I mean, who has been publishing a lot, and sometimes being a contemporary of yours, we feel, oh my God, ma'am is doing wonderful. So it's always a great thing to look up to you for all these academic things. And Dr. Paramita has been consistently in touch, has been coordinating. Thank you so much, Dr. Paramita. You have been a wonderful person all these, months that I have been interacting with you, because last time I could not attend, and you have been so cordial. Thank you so much. And of course, another my co-speaker who has already spoken, Professor Rabindranath Sharma, who is a great friend of mine. And in fact, he talked about the Assamese encyclopedia, and probably it was where first I met him, and that's almost like maybe around 20 years or so, or maybe more than that. So it's nice when we, together and, try to find out certain, discuss certain issues and try to find out, some of the, concepts that really and actually helpful to our understanding of literature and particularly world literature. And probably this topic has been, visualized or envisaged with this idea that how does, Indian literature or Northeast Indian literature, other literature also influence and add up to what you call world literature through this comparison and contrast. And so this is a very meaningful kind of a dialogue, I suppose. And let me also tell you, to all the viewers, that the topic that I'm going to talk about today, margins in comparison, rethinking world literature from Northeast India, is not mine. This topic is also Madam Nandini's, because it is she who actually framed the topic and gave it to me. You can talk on this. So I said, great, thank you so much. So, I mean, she has legitimate, claim on this particular topic that I'm going to talk about today. Nevertheless, let me start with maybe I can have half an hour's time. Yeah. So thank you. So when we talk about rethinking world literature from the emergence, what we do is we explore how literature from the emergence, like marginalized communities, cultures, and perspective, can also challenge and enrich our understanding of world literature. And it examines the concept of margins in literature, which can be, which can refer to the peripheral characters, the, certain peripheral plots or the marginal plots, themes that exist outside the dominant narratives, but offer a highly nuanced kind of a perspective. And these approaches can also be, used to understand how marginalized voices and text can reshape the canon and our understanding of literary tradition. So the canon of the world literature, can be reshaped when we, bring in or draw, text and voices from the marginalized part of the world, either marginalized communities or marginalized literature, whatever you say, or marginalized culture. So that way, it's a kind of a dialogue. It's a kind of a dialogue that begins, at the margin, and which takes into consideration and which, way, draws and also, adds to the world literature. So while doing this, when we try to rethink, world literature from the margins, what we do from the margins, we try to challenge the dominant narratives and the world literature. And by challenging the dominant narratives, we also try to, bring in or, draw from the marginal experiences and marginal literatures. So in this context, let me also tell you, though I'm not, especially talking about some of these theorists, which actually who are there in my mind while I'm talking about these issues, are George Simmel, Richard Park, and Bell Hooks, because it was Bell Hooks once said that, the margins are not only the site of resistance, but these are also the sites of opportunities. And so I'll be basically talking about, how the marginal literature, like Northeastern literature, not only challenges or resists world literature, but it also is a site of opportunity, because it influences world literature and also helps in the formation of what you call the canon in the pluriversal world that Madam Nandini was talking about. So therefore, it does not only challenge, it also reclaim marginalized voices. It also reclaim the marginal voices, and it expand the canon. So these are the couple of things that, when we rethink world literature from margin, marginal literature does to world literature. It challenges the dominant narratives. It also reclaims the marginalized voices and also expand the canon. Now, by incorporating, diverse perspectives from the emerging, it aims to create a more inclusive and representative literary landscape that reflects the complexities of human experiences. Because, till the time of what you call the decoloniality, or say, for example, teen around 1990s, we always would have a canon which is mostly dominated by, as Madam Nandini talked about with Eurocentric and American text, or Eurocentric and Western American ideas, or Western ideas. So basically, this is what the canon was particularly. But from the 1990s onwards, there is a subtle change, and that we have noticed in the last many years, and particularly in the 21st century, in the new millennium, we do see a lot of changes with decoloniality coming to the front stage, where it not only is not only decentering the Eurocentric ideas, but also bringing onto the stage, to the center, ideas and epistemologies from the different parts of the world. And therefore, it's where NEP is very important, and hopefully it will play a very important role, provided it's implemented well. Because our problem is, again, with the kind of the way we implement any policy of the government. But though, since I have been asked to talk on the Northeast literature, so I will basically concentrate with the Northeast literature and try to see how Northeast literature challenges the dominant narrative. It reclaims marginalized voice and also helps in expanding the canon. But then the moment we talk about Northeast literature, and of course, Professor Rabindranath Sarma has already given a talk on the 8 states of Northeastern India. Basically, it's 7 states which are organically connected. Other than Assam, there were 2 princely states of Manipur and Tripura, and later on, Assam was, other states were carved out from Assam. So it became 7 states. And in 2003, a little brother, Sikkim, was brought in within this fold of Northeast India, precisely because of the economic reason, because the government of India wanted, because Sikkim became a part of the Indian nation state in 1975, and so therefore it had its own economic challenges, and government of India tried to bring in within that what you call the Northeastern Council. And so the Act of Northeastern Council was amended in 2002, and from 2003 onwards, this little brother Sikkim has been incorporated. And interestingly, Sikkim is called as the little brother of these 7 sisters. Probably it also has some kind of, I believe, patriarchal tinge to it, precisely because you need a brother at the end. Probably. So that's a very interesting way to look at, and maybe I think we can explore it later. So when you talk about the Northeast, we tend to homogenize a very heterogeneous region, which seems directional in nature. Of course, it's directional in the sense because the whole idea of the Northeast comes from the direction. The Northeast to the then Bengal presidency, and then Northeast of what you call India, if you look at the peninsular India and the Northeastern India. So it's basically directional, but this is a very important direction, as our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, talked about, because this is in that direction where, which is good for the development of the country. So if the Northeast, according to our Honorable Prime Minister, he said once that if the Northeast is developed, the whole country will develop, because it is in that corner between the north and the eastern corner. So Northeast tends to homogenize a very heterogeneous region because there are more than 200 tribes and more than 250 languages in Northeastern India. Many of these languages, they don't have scripts, and many do have Assamese and Manipuris. They have the scripts, and they have a written literature. Assamese, for instance, a tradition. It can go back to the 2nd century BC, and the Manipur also has a ancient literary tradition and written tradition. But many of the other communities, they don't have a written tradition, but they have a very vibrant and strong oral tradition. And we'll talk about all these things. It's I mean, what when these particular epithet or name Northeast has been given to this part of the country, they try to homogenize a very heterogeneous region. As I said, more than 200 tribes located in this particular region. It's sometimes it's jokingly said that every 10 kilometers you move, you will find a new culture because you will find a new community out there. So there are a lot of scholars who are opinion that by bringing that diverse group of people under a single umbrella term, that is the Northeast, what we are trying to ignore the distinct identity of different ethnic groups in the region, and this is and there is also a tendency, to of the center to stereotype the periphery, and and also not to investigate, or examine the distinct problems that plagues this northeastern part of India. And precisely this is one of the reasons, because it has been in constant news for several decades, till the new millennium, I suppose. Uh, when you talk about the northeastern literature, we need to talk about in terms of the immersion and the literature. He because are rooted in diverse cultures and experience of the region. It challenges the dominant narratives and offers fresh insights into the concept of identity, belonging, nationhood, and so many things. And despite its rich cultural and historical significance, this region often finds itself excluded or misrepresented in dominant literary narratives. And here I remember, once Professor Prasanta Das, who retired from Tezpur University, he wrote in EPW an article where he was actually stating and why, most of these anthologies in the 90s, they did not include the poets of the northeastern India. Particularly was referring to Zithail's anthology. And of course, things have changed now, but then it was like this initially, because most of this region was misrepresented, and many a times it was excluded from the dominant literary narratives. So this marginalization, of course, stems from various factors, which include geographical isolation, socio-political complexities, and the dominance of narratives or singular narratives from mainland India, which tends to overshadow the voices and the unique voices of the regions. And there was a lack of awareness about the Northeast distinct cultural identity. Often it was considered or perceived as a monolithic entity, and without understanding that this region, uh, shelters almost like more than 200 tribes, and there are more than 250 languages people speak here. So these nuanced stories are, hardly represented in the mainstream literature. So this exclusion perpetuates some kind of stereotypes and fails to understand the region's cultural diversity. And there were also certain, and because of all these reasons, because of stereotyping, exclusion, and other things, there were socio-political issues that emerged in this part of the world right from the 1950s onwards, which include insurgency, militarization, and displacement. And all these also contributed to the marginalization of this region. So these issues are often, portrayed by the writers and the poets from this part of the country. So literature from the region addresses these themes, and though they often find it difficult to find a place in mainstream literature. So it limits its reach and impact, though in the recent time, in the last 10, 15 years, we do see that there has been a marked change. And having talked about it, let me just talk about, some of the very important aspects of the Northeastern literature. The narratives, particularly from these marginal region called Northeast India, it poses a threat to the meta-narratives of the Indian states as it celebrates its otherness and foregrounds its difference as its identity. And we do see in some of the texts this, uh, celebration of otherness that the literature from this region often, they do. So when we talk about, say, one particular text that has come to my mind is Siddharth Dev's The Point of Return, where Siddhartha basically was born in and brought up in Shillong. So one of his texts, the novel The Point of Return, it avoids simplistic narratives, narrative of the Northeast from the perspective of both the indigenous people and the outsider. So it avoids any simplistic narrative of unity found in nationalistic discourse and try to address the conflict-ridden narrative of the Northeast from the perspective of both the insiders and the outsider, from the perspective of both indigenous people and the outsiders. And it's often people like they often find it difficult to place themselves because they are neither indigenous and they are not exactly outsiders, having born and brought up in this particular region. So the only way they can be considered is the marginal. So I mean, who are at the margin, or you can talk about The Stranger by George Simmel or The Marginal Man by Robert Ipper. And the novel here, in this particular novel, The Point of Return, subverts the self-other dichotomy when the narrative is focalized from the perspective of non-indigenous people in Northeast India who consider Northeast as their home, though they are often the other in the eyes of the indigenous people because they are considered as the outsider. They do not belong to the Northeast and therefore they are the other. And the illusion of being Indian who has chosen to reside in another part of India becomes one that mocks his own pretentious ideological framework. So in this Point of Return, we find the characters like Dr. Ram and Babu are perplexed and saddened by the stark realization of their otherness. They want to be like the indigenous people because many of these, they have many Khasi friends and all, but they are the Khasi friends are good to them, but they never consider them as their own. So the conflict is, of course, rooted, which Siddharth felt that this conflict is particularly rooted in the native fear of losing cultural identity and political power and not receiving its share of resources. So Siddharth Dev's portrayal of the tension between the native and the outsider, like Dr. Dam and Babu, emphasize this aspect that there is always within among the natives the fear of losing cultural identity and political power because they consider the outsiders, people coming from the other parts of the country, as more resourceful than them. And because even if you look in terms of the population as well, we have hardly 13 lakhs Khasi population, 11 lakhs Garo population. So that is one of the reasons that people believe that their numbers are also less, and they are also at the margin, at the periphery, and more important in a democracy when you have only two member of parliaments, in the legislative assembly. So who will hear their voice is again a question because of which people here tend to be afraid of the dominant narratives and the mainstream culture. Let me quote a line here when Dr. Dam, when he muses about the people who are divided on account of ethnicity. Let me quote from the text. There had been a time when ethnic difference had been unimportant, and when he thought about it, even now, most of his tribal colleagues were remarkably unprejudiced. If anything, it was his fellow Bengalis and other non-tribal groups who were insular, with a vague sense of superiority over the tribal officers. Because, often what do we see, and particularly during the time of the colonization, when Shillong became the capital of Assam in 1873, we do see people, from different parts of the country, from Bengal presidency, and were brought to work as clerks and babus in the colonial enterprise in the British administered uh, you know Assam, the then Assam. So what happened was that these officers tried to create a kind of situation by showing that people of these region are illiterate, they are primitive, and all kind of things, and even their languages, for example, Assamese is a distorted version of Bengali. All these kind of things were posed, and because of which there had been, of course, a historical reason for all this kind of estrangement or feeling of differences with the people from outside the Northeast. So Dr. Dam's observation about the outsiders' prejudices emphasizes how the indigenous people are often alienated in their own land. As the narrative unfurls, we find the outsiders are soon relegated to the status of the other, just as they had viewed the tribals a few years earlier. So when the tribal people now make this distinction between themselves and the immigrant other, it becomes a counter discourse to claim their sense of self that had earlier been effaced in the official narrative of the nation. So the meta-narratives of the Indian nation carries the vestige of the colonial mission of homogenization, and this makes it even more problematic. The insidious ways in which we see the colonial power control the Northeast and the ensuing linguistic, cultural, and racial conflicts are seldom recorded in the official discourse of the nationalist struggle. So we see these questions of outside, insider, outside, and it has been played on for a very long time since India became independent, and since then it has been. But this is not something that we do see here. It's in the other parts of the country as well, where there are sometimes a racial prejudices that we find for the Northeastern people, precisely because they lack of awareness about the people of this region, because racially they are different. So often they are considered a Chinese, another thing Chinky they are called. And so these issues have always been a much important, has played a very important factor in these the kind of so-called differences with the people from the other parts of the country. So what we see, I mean, we can bring in people like Anderson, Sunil Khilnani, and others to understand how the what Sunil Khilnani talked about, the possibility that India could be united into a single political community was the wager of Indians' modern educated urban elite, whose intellectual horizon was extended by modern ideas and whose spheres of action was expanded by modern agencies. But this particularly, this kind of ideas actually did a disservice when we talk about the marginal population, because they are at the margin, and the best thing is that they should be allowed to live the way they want to live, because the moment they become educated, they have their own aspirations. If their aspirations are given some kind of fillers, definitely people would be happy, and that way we can see a vibrant India. And hopefully this is what we expect, that we all often talk about, when you talk about India as the nation in making, and probably we do see that the nation is in making. Then let me go to another text to make you understand, the interesting aspect of how women are the feminist or the female gender particularly played a very important role in the Northeastern society. Even if you look at most of the writers, they are women writers. And in her introduction to the anthology, The Many That I Am, Anungla Jo Longkumer states, and to narrate the Naga woman's account of history, or she calls it her story. Instead of calling history as his story, she calls it her story. And in one of the stories in this particular anthology, Cut Off, which is by Rita Crocha, the story centers on the main character Tasu, who is introduced as the village chief's son and expected to follow his father's footsteps, that is, by fighting against the enemies and collecting their skull, which is their most prized possession. The outcome of the story is, however, even more interesting and awe-inspiring, as it portrays the human folk as peacemaker of the society, wherein they were about to witness their most dreadful encounter with their rivals, and eventually ended up saving the whole village, thus proving that women are no less than a mighty warrior. They are the peacemaker, because otherwise, when you talk about the head hunting and other kind of thing, particularly about the tribes of the Northeast India, in this particular story, Cut Off, Vishu Kocha is actually talking about how in this encounter of their tribesman and with the other tribesman, when there is the question of head hunting taking place, how the women becomes the peacemaker, and they end up saving the whole village, solving the problems. And so through this story, we do understand how women can be employed as a peacemaker, and how women has been, of course, if you listen to them. So in the northeastern part of India, we do see that often women are often the policymaker, not only at home but within the communities, within the clan as well. So the story of women, her story here is different from the other parts of the country, because where we do listen to so many things about dowry death and female infanticide and other kind of things. So in that respect, we do see that a woman gets a lot of respect in this part of the region. So from some of these texts, like this is what I was talking about, Cut Off and other short stories, we do see the power of the women, and even in other texts. So here, Longkumer in this particular text, therefore states, instead of others depicting a somewhat superficial image of the Nagas, it is Naga writer who are now espousing the need for honest probity into our inner selves in order to correct our past mistake by creating a livable present. I mean, that is very important, that the people, the insiders, should tell their own stories, because otherwise they will be misrepresented. So if more insiders started telling stories, and it will be an authentic story, and it will pass across to the other people the nuances of those stories, the very stories that other people otherwise would misrepresent. Because often the women of the Northeast and other tribal communities in other parts of the country are considered as they look them within the frame of what you call promiscuity and other kind of things, but which is not true. The tribal communities, they have their own rules and regulation, very strict rule and regulation, which people outside the Northeast are probably not aware of. So these things, can come out from reading of such stories, which are also, written or produced by the indigenous writers. And other than that, we also have, other stories, like there is a story called, in this particular anthology, Storyteller. It is by Emin Senla Jamir. It talks about a young girl who has a deep fascination for storytelling, as she dreams of becoming like one. Her admiration for Achula, referring to grandmother in the story, and her obsession for storyteller Achula's only, and her skill of storytelling, she find very fascinating. And she also wants to grow up like her grandmother. At a time when people have started losing interest in storytelling. And thankfully, we have people like um, this particular girl uh, in this storyteller, or this particular character, who actually wants to tell the story of her own community, and because they are also the chronicler, and it's certain in one of the essays Mamangde has written that the writers of northeastern regions are basically chronicler of their community, because they because they chronicles their community, they tell the history of the community because they know it inside out. Otherwise, it's often misrepresented. So the validation of this self does not necessarily involve the blind negation of the other. It all involves a keen awareness that accepts disputes and recreates the impotence of identity. Um, and this is also being spoken in an essay called Out Books by Narola Chankiza, when she talks about the clash of identities in her young Naga self when she developed awareness of the other around her. And in the book, in the anthology, it's stated, let me quote, "We lived in a tribal world, a scheduled tribe world, where our internal realities clashed with our external state of being. We were the descendants of ancient headhunters, but we were dependent on the generous fund of the central Indian government. We are not like the plains people, the Sumars." So, here we see how, particularly, Narola Shankiza talks about in the Outbook that there is always a class of the identity, the tribal identity, along with the identity that we have accept what you call the Indian identity, and through this class, comes out some kind of what you call a hyphenated kind of a culture, and that is something that is being emerging in the Northeast India in the recent times. Having said this, I think how much time do I have? How much time do I have?
Sir,
You know,
actually,
you may conclude because I have a meeting at 11:45. So
Okay.
once I leave, you all can continue with your discussions.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just conclude by saying that we have so many writers, which include Temsula, Eastern Kirre, Esther CM, Janice Period, Mona Jote, Mamang Dai, who have drawn heavily from their ancestral knowledge system, that is, indigenous knowledge systems, embedding folklore, myths, and legends into their narrative. And Temchula stories, particularly, these hills call home, act as a repository of Naga oral history, capturing the essence of a people's struggle, resilience, and cultural identity. Similarly, Mamang Dai's poetry and prose, such as the Legend of Pensam, the Black Hill, it echoes the myths and ecological wisdom of Arunachal Pradesh, particularly of the Adi tribe, reflecting the deep spiritual connection her community shares with the land. And Eastern Kirill's A Terrible Matriarch is a poignant exploration of the oppressive expectation placed on women, even in Naga society. And we have the story of the alieno, who was systematically marginalized in the Naga household. Or we have Janice Period's Boats on Land, which offers a more nuanced exploration of gender within the Khasi matrilineal society. So though women holds a unique position as inheritors of property and custodians of lineage, we do see a societal framework that does not entirely shield them from challenges. And so there are so many other writers, and if we read them, we would find that most of these writers, they have been writing and challenging the dominant narrative, and also they have also helped in expanding the canon. So in a way, we can say that rethinking world literature from the northeast of India can challenge the center periphery model. It can not only, it doesn't only challenge the center periphery model. It also helps to propagate the indigenous knowledge systems of these communities, because if these knowledge systems are lost, then I'm sure India will lose a part of its own culture, a part of its own a tradition and knowledge system. And we do also see that these writings is helping in expanding the canon of Indian writing and also of the world literature as such. So I think with this, I would like to end. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a vibrant and engaging lecture. Now I would like to request Professor Nandini Sahu ma'am for her very valuable remarks. Ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you, Paramita. Professor Dwijen, I'm so sorry. I wish I could have attended your session for some more time, but anyway, even after I leave, they will record and I'm going to listen to the rest part of your discourses and your discussions. I have a meeting at 11:45, so I'll quickly make a couple of points and leave. Your lecture was very pertinent and very, very important for us, especially for me as a folklorist, when you talked about the challenges that the center periphery model has, and then how in the comparative world literature departments like ours, we can take that into consideration. You talked in detail about the margins and the mainstream, then the communities, the dominant narratives, the texts that reshape the canon, the dialogues, the theorists of Northeast literature, which was new to me, and I'm going to read a bit more about that. The opportunities there, and formation of the new canons, and the formation of nations, nationalistic discourses, and the monolithic entities and the stereotypes. First, I start questioning myself, and then you made a very interesting point, important point, that we should avoid simplistic narratives in Northeastern literature. And then I was very happy to listen to things related to her story, where you said that women are peacemakers as well as policy makers. Being an eco-feminist, I certainly take this idea, and I'm happy that you talked about it. I would like my colleagues to ask you more questions about that. And then the texts that you mentioned, most of those are already in the syllabus of MA folk literature. Thank you for pointing out that you met me in 2009 for the first year courses of MA in folk literature, which was PG diploma in folk literature actually. And our Goa connections, yes, somehow that had left my mind. So thanks for reminding me. So my takeaway from today's lecture that you delivered is that some points. One is you mentioned that we should disrupt the monolithic nationhood ideas, and Northeast literatures that expose the cracks in dominant nationalistic narratives, and they erase the diversities. We will rethink about it when we prepare our syllabus. And one of the blocks, like I told earlier when Professor Rabindranath spoke, that we will design the syllabus keeping Northeastern literature in mind. A major portion of one of the courses will certainly go to that. And then how you wanted to reject the marginal tags like regional sustains, center periphery hierarchies. Those things are discussed in the courses that we talked about. And you gave importance to theory, not tokenism. We have to theorize the Northeastern literature and then put that as a part of our comparative world literatures. And you said no to stereotypes. You resisted conflict. I mean, you talked about the resistance to conflict and the exotic tropes thereof, and how those things can be taken as a part of our research. And then complexity, resistance, narrative innovation, those are the terminologies that you used off and on. That was very, very important for me in personally as a researcher and a folklorist. And I'm sure that the faculty members and the students of Hindi University are massively, hugely benefited by your lecture. They will take the discussion further, but please forgive me. I have to leave. I have to join another meeting in a few seconds. Thank you so much. I'm going to get in touch with both of you very soon. And namaskar. Paramita,
Thank you.
please.
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Paramita, please continue and record it. I will listen to both of them. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for such an enlightening lectures. Now, I would request our participants that please feel free to send your questions to Hindi University mail address. We would love to share it with our speakers. Now, as we came to the end of our webinar today, so I would like to thank, first of all, I would like to thank Honorable Vice Chancellor of Hindi University, Professor Nandini Sahu ma'am, for gracing this occasion despite her busy schedule. Unfortunately, she had to leave for an important meeting, but we are thankful for the time she could spare. Now, I would like to thank our distinguished speakers, Professor Rabindranath Sharma sir and
Thank
Professor
you.
Dwijen Sharma sir, team of Hindi University and lovely participants for joining us today. Thank you and have a very good day. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Namaskar. Thank you.